Bienvenue everyone! This is StreakyGeek and you are watching Desert Island 7. For this episode, I'll be focusing on games released for the PlayStation 2. Sony released the console way back in the year 2000 and it went on to become the most successful console of all time. When it was finally discontinued in January of 2013, it had sold 155 million units and amassed a library of over 3,800 games selling over 1.5 billion copies. This selection has been hard, but if I could only ever play 7 PlayStation 2 titles again, these are the ones that I would choose. There is a reason that the Grand Theft Auto series is arguably the most popular video game series of all time, possibly tied with Call of Duty. You can do whatever you want. Way back when the original game was released for the PS1, I found driving around like an idiot, running people over, going on a gun rampage and blowing things up was a very therapeutic way of taking out frustrations. In real life, I go out of my way to help people and would never attack anyone. I'll resist the urge to have a rant about the links between violence and video games to just give my short opinion. No. Grand Theft Auto 3 was the first game on this console and the move to a 3D environment blew me away. While it wasn't exactly the first open world game, it was absolutely groundbreaking. Rockstar built upon that for the follow-up game Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which introduced motorbikes amongst other things, but the biggest appeal was its love letter to the 1980s. Taking cues from the Pacino Scarface movie and set in the Miami-esque Vice City, the game oozed 80s charm and included a killer soundtrack that totally captured the essence of the era. If I'm living on a desert island, this is the virtual city I'd want to hang around in. Yes, I've chosen a compilation, but it is a PS2 title. Many of the games here had never been released before for home consumers, being arcade exclusives. There were some excellent compilations released for this system with arcade collections by Capcom, SNK, Midway and Taito, but Capcom Classics Collection Volume 2 is my absolute favourite. The obvious appeal is the variety with 22 games to choose from, with classic shoot-em-ups like 1941 and Varth, side-scrolling shooters like Eco Fighters, platform hack-and-slash games like Strider and Tiger Road, racing games like Last Duel, and puzzle games such as Block Block and Don't Pull. It also includes King of Dragons, a classic beat-em-up that was the precursor to the amazing Dungeons & Dragons games, as well as the original Street Fighter game, which has fond memories for me and laid the groundwork for its sequel to be the biggest fighting game of all time. My favourites from this collection are Magic Sword, an addictive hack-and-slash platformer with weapon upgrades and a variety of companions to help you fight your way to the top of the castle. Knights of the Round, a classic beat-em-up with great visuals based on the Arthurian legends where you slash through enemies on foot or on horseback, levelling up your character as you go. Captain Commando, a wacky beat-em-up with some insane characters and collectible weapons to use against some bizarre enemies. Black Tiger, a platform hack and slash with a fun fantasy theme and an atmospheric dungeon environment that even has levelling up and shops to buy items in along the way. Mega Twins, a cutesy platformer with inventive level design, upbeat soundtrack and fun gameplay. And surprisingly, Quiz and Dragons, a trivia game which I've spent more time on than I would have predicted. With a massive number of questions to answer, it would have great longevity, help to keep my mind sharp and remind me of the world beyond my desert island. The only negative things I could say about this collection is that Avengers isn't that great, and the controls for the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo game seem unresponsive. It is otherwise a perfect package. While Volume 1 of the Capcom Classics collection was good, the only games I would love to have seen here would be Final Fight and the perfectly emulated Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. There were some excellent games that didn't make it on here because of licensing issues, such as Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, The Punisher, Willow, Dungeons & Dragons Shadows over Mystara, and Alien vs Predator, but maybe they'll get a chance to appear on a future list. What could be better than a collection of some of my favourite arcade games of all time? My favourite driving game of all time. I never jump on a new console as soon as they're released, but instead I wait for a few years, partly for the price to come down, but also because I haven't played that game yet. By that game, I mean the one that makes me buy the console, and for the PlayStation 2, that game was Burnout 3 Takedown. When I played this on a friend's console, the graphics completely blew me away. They were a huge leap up from the PS1 and Nintendo 64 games I was playing at the time, and I still think they look great today. While graphics aren't everything, and modern consoles have improved in that area, I have yet to play any other racing game I love as much as Burnout 3. There are loads of cars and other vehicles to unlock, and a world tour mode where you can unlock other areas and race types. These include a time attack mode, where you have to complete stages in the best time possible, and traditional races against other cars, but those are standard for any game. The feeling of speed is heart-pounding, and the racing is more arcade than sim, which is my preferred style. But my absolute favourite parts of the game are the crash mode, a mini-game where you drive into traffic to cause as much financial damage as possible using a variety of vehicles from road cars to fire engines, and the best mode of all, the road rage. My favourite driving games have always included some level of destruction, whether that's firing weapons or crashing into your opponents. The more realistic a driving game is, the less I like it. In the road rage mode, you just drive around courses trying to make your opponents crash as many times as possible. That includes grinding them into the guardrails, forcing them into other cars or scenery, flipping them off bridges, or psyching them out with crazy driving. As with all the modes, the more dangerous you drive, the more your boost meter increases, allowing you to speed around the track and hit other cars with more force. The game even takes photos of your various takedowns and awards points for different types, like double takedowns. You even have the ability to maneuver the car after you've been crashed to steer your flying wreckage into other cars for an after-touch takedown. This combination of great racing and carnage makes this a game I can play again and again. When picking up cheap job lots of old PlayStation 2 games, I came across Gottlieb Pinball Classics. I didn't really know anything about pinball at the time, but thought I'd give the game a try before passing it on. The fact that it's on this list shows that never happened. The whole package was just fascinating, with behind the scenes photographs of an actual pinball factory, as well as 11 perfectly recreated pinball tables to play on, ranging from the 1930s to the 1990s. Each table is accompanied by some background information, as well as a playing guide to the strategies required to succeed at each table. Playboy from 1932, a playing card themed bagatelle style table from before the invention of flippers. Ace High from 1957, an early electromagnetic game featuring wooden side rails and back glass lights for scoring. Central Park from 1966, metal side rails and mechanical reels for scoring have been introduced. Big Shot from 1973 uses the now standard 3.5-inch flippers, which have a much better control than the original 2.5-inch design. Genie from 1979, an early example of the move from electromagnetic design to solid-state electronics with digital score displays. Black Hole from 1981. Like Genie, this table had the rarer wide-body cabinet size and multiple flippers, but also introduced a lower-level playfield. Goin' Nuts from 1983, an experimental timed game that only had 10 copies produced. Eldorado City of Gold from 1983, a solid-state remake of an electromagnetic classic with all new artwork. Victory from 1987 featured the upgrade from numerical digital scoring to alphanumeric, allowing messages to be displayed. Teed Off from 1993 uses the dot matrix display capable of showing pictures and videos. And Strikes and Spares from 1995, an attempt to recreate 10-pin bowling in a pinball machine. I could spend years just improving my high scores, as there's no limit, so it's not something you can complete 100%. This also includes old-style arcade distractions Love Meter and Zoltan the Fortune Teller that are amusing once in a while. Developers Farsight Studios would go on to create dozens of classic real-world pinball machines in their Pinball Arcade series, which I'll cover in later videos. I've been careful with my episode planning to make sure that I don't cover the same games too often, but I had to include this again here. I just love this game so much. Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction has some neat little touches, like comic book covers to collect, as introduced in the PS1 Spider-Man game, and all new moves you can learn as you progress through the game, adding more unique ways to smash and destroy your environment. You also need some strategy to defeat some of the trickier opponents, such as Abomination. Rather than going into too much detail again here, check out Desert Island 7 Episode 2 Radical Entertainment to see why this one must come to my island with me. As Shakespeare said in Twelfth Night, if music be the food of love, play on. Well, I love this game and plan on playing it for a long time. Non-standard video game controllers can often be a contrived mess, but when they're done right, they can be excellent, and probably none more so than the Guitar Hero representation of a real Gibson SG. In theory, the game is simple. Hold the right button or combination of buttons, and then hit the strum bar, holding the note for the required length. If you get it right, the track plays as it should and your points increase. If not, your bonus chain breaks and your instrument makes a weird noise. While these aren't the original recordings, they are very close cover versions for the most part, and with 47 tracks to master by the likes of the Ramones, Sum 41, Queen, Motorhead, David Bowie, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath and Pantera, there's plenty to choose from. Later games in the series added more features, such as customizable characters and the ability to sing along with a microphone, and the Rock Band spin-off allowed for a virtual drum kit controller too. So why did I choose the original game? After the first two games and a fun but limited 80s collection, original developers Harmonix moved on to the 7th generation consoles, making Guitar Hero and Rock Band games for the PS3 and Xbox 360. From Guitar Hero 3 onwards, the PS2 ports were handled by Budcat Creations and Pi Studios. While those games were still good, the responsiveness didn't seem as accurate as the original Harmonix games, which is kind of a deal breaker for a rhythm-based game. It was a close call between the original and Guitar Hero 2, but I preferred the track listing of the original game overall. The different difficulty modes makes this feel almost like totally different games. On easy mode, you can basically listen to the music while strumming along to the beat with some simple chord representations. On normal mode, it can be more of a challenge, especially when going for a perfect run. Hard mode introduces the 5th fret button and is above what I can do at the moment, but they say practice makes perfect. Maybe with enough time I could get good enough to manage hard mode. Then there's expert mode. Okay, I don't think I'll ever finish this game 100%, even on a desert island. What started out as a fairly obscure wrestling sim by Masato Matsuda at Human Entertainment way back in 1989 on the PC Engine has developed into what I believe to be the greatest wrestling game ever made. In 2005, Spike Chunsoft released the final and definitive version of the game. Or so we thought at the time. Fire Pro Wrestling returns. It cost me a lot to get hold of a copy of this game because the PAL version was only released in Italy. I found the control system hard to navigate at first, but through persistence, I learned how to control the wrestlers, time moves and work out strategies. Button mashing will get you absolutely nowhere here, it's all about precision. As soon as two wrestlers get close enough to each other, a grapple is automatically applied. Then, whoever times the grapple right gets to follow up with a move. At the start of the match, you'll only be able to pull off light attacks. As your opponent gets worn down, you can move on to medium, heavy and special attacks for more damage. Try anything too powerful too soon and the move will be reversed on you. You can even work on specific body parts to wear your opponent down for a submission win. You can wrestle with up to 4 people on each side and can play elimination mode like the original Survivor Series matches. You can also participate in cage matches, barbed wire rings, exploding landmine death matches and MMA octagon style fighting, amongst others. As this isn't a licensed game, it was shipped with renamed lookalikes similar to the football/soccer games of the 90s. With some simple renaming, you have 327 wrestlers to start you off, including Bret Hart, Sting, the Legion of Doom, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall and Andre the Giant. You can even customise your own rings, logos and referees. If that was all this game was, it would be amazing. There's tons of variety on offer with so many different wrestlers boasting unique style and move sets, you'd have enough variety to last a lifetime. But you have space to add 500 created wrestlers, bringing the total up to 827. You could go through creating all your favourite wrestlers who didn't make the list, but there is an amazing crew of creators who have made every wrestler you could ever think of, and you can just download their save files. I'll put links in the description. As you've seen throughout this section of the video, I've been showing off some of their fine work, showcasing wrestlers from different eras and promotions. But the fun doesn't stop there. It's not just wrestlers you can create. Why not have a UFC rematch between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather? Or maybe a team match with 1980s horror movie icons taking on the classic Universal Studio horror icons. Perhaps a superhero battle royale with all your favourite comic book characters. Or even pit fighting game legends against one another for Mortal Kombat vs Street Fighter. Maybe you want to see the Guardians of the Galaxy take on the Evil Empire. One creator even made characters based on the old NES game Tecmo Wrestling and then expanded the roster to include 7 wrestlers each from just about every nation on Earth. This game is simply massive, and you are really only limited by your own imagination. Just as a warning, do not play the Xbox 360 version that has nothing in common with this except the name, because it's awful. This game, however, has just received a modern remake and is available on Steam called Fire Pro Wrestling World. I'm sure that version is great, but I just don't want to invest in creating, tweaking and transferring characters all over again. If you made it this far, then cheers for the support. I have dozens of videos planned and will try to get them out at a reasonable rate. Please share, like and subscribe. You can follow me as StreakyG on Twitter and StreakyGeek on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch and Patreon. So that's a wrap, and stay groovy.